Welcome to the Nifty Chicks. In this episode, we have the absolute pleasure to speak with MetaDocPeace. She talks about her pivot from doctor to spoken word artist, the moment that changed her life, and the projects she has in the pike that can change your life. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Nifty Chicks. We have the privilege today of having a doctor on the show. We have MetaDocPeace, who we had the chance to actually encounter at NFT NYC. And I have kind of a funny story, but I want you to just give a little background about yourself and how you got into this crazy world. And then I want to tell this little story of how I found out about you.
Gold. Well, thank you again for having me on here on the Nifty Chicks podcast. So very excited to be here. So my story, how a doctor ended up now a pivot coach and a spoken word artist in the Web3 space. Long story short, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was working as a pharmacist. I'm a doctor of pharmacy specifically. And I felt that I wasn't in alignment with my purpose. I had this aha moment sitting in a gold sequin dress at a wedding, a family wedding. And I was, acting the role, playing the role of this successful pharmacist. I had the great car that I drove to the wedding so people could see. I had the great social media presence. You could see my friends, you could see how social I was and how I had all the things that said that I was a successful being. And I found myself at this wedding, and that's when it all kind of hit me, where I felt that I was playing this role and I forgot the next lines. And so as I was sitting there and watching all the guests arrive and interact, there was this voice that spoke to me and it said, "You need not just to wear gold, you need to be gold, a genuine, original, loving dreamer."
Felt that. I felt it. I love that.
I'm so glad that it resonates, and it totally hit me. And that's when I realized I needed to shift things around in my life. I needed to start really diving in and assessing what other gifts that I had that I wasn't really utilizing. And that's when I rediscovered that I was a spoken word artist. And I forgot that I was. In fact, when I was 12, I wrote a book called The Midnight Show. It rhymed. It was super inspiring. And I forgot about that ability to do that, to flow in that way. And so this moment reminded me of that. And so I began a brand called DocPeace. And I started performing spoken word. And I started at open mic night settings. And before I knew it, I was like really called to shift out of these open mic settings. And I started flowing at all these other events in my hometown, from conferences to the bars to you name it, to the schools. And I started not only doing it for fun, but I was starting to monetize from it. And so that began my first business from pharmacy. And when COVID hit, things shut down, events weren't happening anymore. So it wasn't an option for me to go and flow and ignite your event with spoken word. And so I started thinking on what else I could do. And I realized I shifted my personal business, the speaker business online, and it was still successful. Not as many clients coming through because it's virtual speaking, but there was still some success in it. And because I was able to find success with this online based business, I realized I could share this skill set with others, other providers, other of my corporate friends and connections that weren't really satisfied with what they were doing in their life and wanted to tap into more of what they could offer. So I started a business creating content and programs around creating an online based business. And so that was my second business. And then to answer your question, finally getting around to your question, how I ended up here in Web3, about a year or so ago, I discovered NFTs. A really good friend of mine introduced me to Gary V's book drop, where he was giving away a NFT for every dozen books that you purchased or pre-ordered. And at that moment, I was like, you know what? Well, let me go all in. She asked me if I trusted her, and I said, of course I trust you. And so she gave me this tip on this opportunity, and I bought 2 dozen. And after I made that investment, I said, what is an NFT?
Oh my God. That's a bit backwards.
That's funny.
Like,
Yeah.
And so thus began my journey into the space.
wow, that's amazing. And so, there's a lot of people, I am one of them, but a lot of listeners who are in, have a day-to-day job, right? Who are seeing a future where they can transition into Web3 space, or see a future where they can build their own business, or to kind of take that leap. You make it sound so easy, that it was such an easy transition, leaving such a secure job, successful job, into building a brand and, diving into NFTs. Like, take us into kind of what you were feeling, and why you were able to, what was it that made you say, I'm okay not making a steady salary, a steady income, having this quote successful paper job, and I'm going to take a risk. Talk to me about that experience.
I love this question, and I feel many can relate, because it's important to feel like you are making the right decision, right? And at that moment, when I decided to, like you said, leave my comfy, secure job, there were a lot of deciding factors that went into that. Firstly, I had shifted slowly. So I was still working on my business and my brand. There was about a 2-year overlap where I was still working as a full-time pharmacist, and I was honing my skill set as a spoken word artist, meaning that I was performing, igniting events with spoken word, and I was crafting this other skill set of creating custom spoken word flows to elevate brands and projects in that then Web 2 space that I was in. And so I was working on this skill set as I was still working as a full-time pharmacist. And so when the opportunity came up about 3 years or so ago for me to fully pivot, it was an understanding that I had this business already kind of started. There was momentum building around this business, this brand, this niche that I was forming, because there are not many spoken word artists who create custom spoken word flows to elevate brands and projects. And especially in the Web3 space, I haven't encountered anyone doing what I'm doing now. In any case, back then, 3 years or so ago, I was laid off. And this is not very well known. I don't share this often, but this was the opportunity that I had to fully pivot, because I'd already established this brand for myself, and I knew that I was finding success with it. And with this 5 words, it was 5 words that were said: Dr. Peace Uche, we have to let you go. Dr. Peace Uche, we have to let you go. 9 words that literally changed my life. And when I heard those 9 words, I said, thank you.
I love that. Yeah. That's amazing. You saw that as an opportunity.
Yes, most definitely. And honestly, there were some tears.
Sure.
Not gonna lie, there was a moment where I was sitting in my car after packing up my office, and I was working at this corporate building. They did a massive layoff, like many corporations do. And so I packed up my office, because many people think I was working as a pharmacist in a retail pharmacy. No, I was actually working behind the scenes in corporate, formulary management, prior authorizations, like actually the nitty gritty of pharmacy. And I was in that management arena. And so when I was packing, after I packed up my belongings, I was sitting in my car, and I remember taking like about 30 or so minutes to like just cry it out, like all the frustration and just the anxiety building, like, okay, what's going to happen next? And I remember calling my mom and letting her know, and feeling that disappointment. And then after that, you know what? I said, you know what? This is a great opportunity for me to shift, for me to pivot into something that really lights me up, because for a while I was not aligned and I knew it. 5 years ago, I already had that moment where I realized that I needed to be in more alignment. And even though I had aligned over the last 2 years, I wasn't in full alignment. And so that's when I was sitting in this car, I was like, you know what? No more tears. And I remember going straight home, changing into my bikini, and then going to the beach to play some beach volleyball. And I played till sunset. And I was like, you know what? I like this life. I like this lifestyle of doing what lights me up.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
want to take a moment to talk about like the logistics of this. Yeah, I talked a lot about the emotional aspect of it, and that's important as well. But the financial logistics of where I was is that a year prior to this moment where I got laid off, I had paid off all my loans. So I had no student loans.
Nice.
And that's something that many people are stuck with their current position because they have so much student loans. I recall there was a pharmacist I work with who had $600,000 of student loans. And when he told me this, I almost passed out because it was just so overwhelming. But I had paid off all my loans so that there was that freedom. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I had built up my savings to a point where I didn't feel this stress of, okay, what's going to happen next if I don't get a job right away. So I had this moment where I had all this time. I had the small income coming in from unemployment, and I had this momentum built around my project and my brand. And so I used all of that to develop my brand even further to what you see today.
That's amazing. That's so good. I mean, hats off to you. You're just a total badass. And I want to hear Minty Cell's story. I want to make sure we touch on that.
Yeah. So it's funny because I found you through Fame Ladies, of course. I was actually, I think it was when I was in Lisbon getting ready to speak at the non-fungible conference. And I can't remember if your drop of the collab with Fame Ladies happened. It happened like right around that same time. And I want to share my screen here because I want.
And for any listeners that have not had a chance to meet MetaDocPeace in person, she is just like the biggest ball of beautiful energy. And like, you take the room. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So like when I'm hearing Minty Cell share her story about meeting you, and I'm just like, I remember seeing you from across a huge ballroom and being like, I want to know her. She looks amazing.
Well, yeah, because we ran into, it was the VIP dinner night, was the first night that we ran into you at NFT NYC.
Yes.
But I still hadn't connected the dots at that point. So I got the drop for this amazing NFT, and I'm going to play it here.
We'll figure something out. We are strong and independent ladies of the NFT community, after all. May not know yet what that means, but as we connect with ourselves and one another deeper, we will come to a solution that works. In NFT Ignition and Board Becky, we trust. But this above all else, we believe in ourselves. See, in this wild west of the metaverse, we lean on each other. And so we each serve as pillars for the greater collective. We are Fame Lady Squad from the blockchain. And what began as the biggest scam in the NFT space with dudes posing to be the first female-run project of all time has exposed a new race of community-driven enthusiasts. August 2021 marking the date, potentially the first time in history an entire project has ever been given to a community. See, Fame Lady Squad equals unity. And united, we generate brilliant feminine light 8,888 times, This is what female empowerment looks like. We cycle our gifts through energetic exchanges and embodiment of diversification. May not know yet what that means, but we will figure something out. After all, we are strong and independent ladies of the NFT community. We are Fame Lady Squad. And like a golden phoenix from the flames, we rise.
So I got this drop. I heard this. I was getting ready to speak at NFC Lisbon. And I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to say at this conference to all these women, talking about how women are changing the Nifty world. And so I added this NFT into my presentation. But what's funny is, of course, the sound didn't work. So I had to ad lib. And I did not do it justice, but I had to ad lib. So, we're going about I do the conference, whatever. I meet you at NFT NYC. Still haven't put this together. I just think you are amazing and cool, and I love your style. And I'm like, oh my God, you need to come on the show. Then we go to the event at the Fame Ladies put on with my BFF, and you did your spoken word. And as soon as you started speaking, the light bulb went off, and I'm like, oh my God, that's her. So it's just funny how the world works and how
Wow.
things together. So
What an incredible story. I absolutely
Isn't that
love this story. And what's interesting
Yeah.
about that moment, or even the whole collaboration, how that even came to be, I would love to actually share
I'd
that
love
story.
to hear that story. Yeah.
Okay, so back when I first entered into the space, this was August 2021, and I had purchased Gary Vee's book, 24 of them, 24 of them, and I started researching what an NFT was. I was like, you know what, I just made this investment. Now I really need to figure out what I just invested in. And I started diving into podcasts, going to YouTube school, reactivated my Twitter, hopped into all these Twitter spaces, started engaging. And about 2 months into it, I had the opportunity to go to NFT NYC. I had a radio show at the time that I was hosting, and I was able to secure media passes to attend NFT NYC. And this was my first NFT NYC. This was my first NFT event. And so I was like, okay, this is it. And it worked out that 2 or 3 weeks prior, I wrote my very first flow, Freedom with NFTs. It was my very first Web3 specific spoken word flow. And I memorized it on the plane ride from San Diego, California, where I'm based, to New York, because I knew that there would be an opportunity for me to flow this flow, and I wanted to be ready for it. So I wouldn't let myself sleep. I spent 4 to 5 hours just dialing in this new flow, making sure that I was ready to flow. And so the moment came a little bit quicker than I thought it would. It was day 0 or even day 00 at NFT NYC. It was a blast off to New York with Gary Vee. It was this private event, and I was able to secure tickets for that event. And I recall getting there around a little early with my really good friend, Lauren Turton, who's the one who pulled me into the Web3 space. She has a background in event management. So she looked around for the event coordinator. She spotted her, pulled her over, introduced us, and we convinced her that I needed to flow this particular flow for this event. And she said, "You're right. This is the perfect ending for you to close out NFT Land, blast off to New York City with hundreds of people who came to see Gary Vee, and we want you to close it out." And so I landed this opportunity impromptu, and I closed out Gary's event in November with Freedom with NFTs. And that moment changed my life, because not only did it help me realize that what I had to offer in terms of spoken word was well received. This was the very first time that I debuted that I was a spoken word artist. Yeah, I flowed in like Twitter spaces and people enjoyed it, but this is the very first time I did it IRL. and I could see the people's faces and their reactions. And then Gary Vee gave me this big hug and a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, I can only imagine his reaction.
He was enthralled the entire time. I wasn't looking at him the entire time, but watching the video afterwards, he was just clinging on every word, and it was just so
Wow.
incredible to see that emotion come forward. And then afterwards, after Gary gives me this big hug, Ja Rule comes up. He's in the crowd because he's tinkering around Web3 and figuring out what he's going to do in the space. And he comes up and he says, "I really enjoyed your spoken word." And I'm like, "Well, thank you, Ja Rule." And that's how I connect.
No big deal. No big deal.
No.
It's a normal day.
Yeah. Just a normal day. And in fact, I didn't recognize that he was Ja Rule until a little bit afterwards, honestly. And I offered him a button. I'm really big on giving away my buttons. I love giving away buttons. And he took it, and I'm pretty sure he wore it. But in any case, that's how I connected with Fame Lady Squad. They were both present, Danielle and NFT Ignition, or Danielle, and Board Becky or Ashley. They were both present at the event, and they both had the opportunity to experience this moment with me. And from there, we connected. I was on their podcast, on their very first episode of their podcast, which they recorded in New York. Yeah, in New York that week, they recorded that episode IRL. And so I was able to be on that podcast. And then from there, we just kept communicating. And we knew we wanted to do something together, something that would elevate the Web3 community, but specifically the woman in the Web3 community, especially in mind of like how Fame Lady Squad came to be. It's just such an incredible story. So we wanted to pull that together. So on the plane ride back to San Diego, I created that flow on the plane ride back. And I called it NFLS We Trust. I was in the zone, and that momentum was building when I realized that people enjoyed this form of expression. Not only was I able to ignite events with this form of expression, but now I could utilize this skill set that I was already honing, this ability to craft custom spoken word flows to elevate brands and projects. And I was like, this is my first opportunity to showcase this in the Web3 space. I'm going all in. So yes, I was very lit up, and I created that whole flow and shared it with Ashley shortly after landing. And we made some adjustments. And then we decided to airdrop it to all Fame Lady Squad holders. And
I was very happy that you did. I was very happy that you did. And it is funny. So the other day, we just had Danielle and Ashley on our show. When they were getting off, they're like, "Oh, we're going to talk to DocPeace next." I think you guys, I can't remember if they were recording for you or you were recording for them. So I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I need to talk to her too." Follow up to get you on this show. And so then here we are. And then tomorrow we're talking to Fame Ladies because we're going to be on their show.
So it's
like a small world. Yeah.
Yes. I love how we're all supporting each other. I think that's something that we definitely need to note and appreciate and keep doing more of.
Agree. Yeah.
I totally agree. This space has been beautiful for that. I mean, it's been, in so many ways, we talk about it being such a bro culture, but when you find your squad and you find your people in this, my gosh, it's like I've found my best friends. It's like it's the relationships that are so incredible and uplifting and empowering in a way that like I don't feel in the real world. Like it's not the same. It's not the same. It's such a cool community that we have here.
It truly is. What a blessing.
That's why when I heard your flow from that NFT, I was just like, this is exactly how I feel about this. And you said it so beautifully. I loved it. So
thank you.
I want to make sure that we touch on some of the things that you have going on. So one of the things you talked about a little bit in New York City was your 4-part prescription to transform your mindset. Do you want to share a little bit about that and what you're doing?
Yes, yes. So at this event that was NFT NYC 2022, so that was this year, about a couple months ago,
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to share this 4-part prescription on empowerment and transforming your mindset from powerless to powerful at a satellite event that was sponsored by BFF and some other incredible beings, including Bing Lady Squad. And one thing that really lit me up was the focus on empowerment. I spoke at NFT NYC, the actual conference, and I shared a piece of what I shared at the BFF satellite event. I had a lot more time on stage at the BFF satellite event, so I was only able to share a little bit of it. But I found that the highlights of a lot of the speakers was more along the lines of business and trying to sell their project and their company and build that out. And there wasn't a lot of focus on mindset and empowerment specifically, because if you're not aligned, if you're not empowered fully and you understand your value, it's going to be really difficult to keep showing up and to keep building, especially now that we're in the bear market. And so to have this opportunity to share these tools was an incredible opportunity. And so when we connected, you got to hear this 4-part prescription. And this 4-part prescription was actually featured in Forbes in January of this year. And it shares this step-by-step guide, essentially, on how to transform your mindset from powerless to powerful, even when it feels impossible. And I can share with you one of the biggest steps, actually the number one first step to this whole series of prescriptions, is to create a gratitude list. Creating a gratitude list of your gifts, your expert skills, and your talents. And really dive deep into this. This is meant to be a challenge, and it's not often that we take the time to really assess and ask ourselves, what are our gifts, what are our skill sets, and what are our talents? Gifts being things that you are innately born with, and expert skills, things being you learned throughout your careers or your certifications or licenses that you hold, things that you were trained to do, and now you can do it day in and you did it back then, day in and day out, and now you can still perform that function because it's ingrained.
Right.
And then talents are things that really just light you up, that you've given freely, happily, your time, your energy into honing weeks, months, years, because you're just so drawn to perform in that way and to share and showcase that talent. And so I encourage you to write out at least 7 gifts, 7 expert skills, and 7 talents. So 7 in each category. And this embodies who you are and the value that you have to offer. This is your gratitude list. And so that's one of the first prescriptions in transforming your mindset, is really honing in on the value that you have to bring. Because when you understand the value that you have to offer, not only are you showing up, but you're also raising others up with you. It's the mindset that you don't have anything to offer, that you are just not a asset, or you don't have any assets. That is what leads to this negativity.
Right.
And this is when people start pushing each other down and trampling each other and shutting others down. And that could be totally changed around if you do this simple exercise of identifying your own value by creating this gratitude list, because then you realize that you have value. And then not only can you identify your own value, but you can pinpoint and highlight the value in others because you see it in yourself. And so
Right.
it makes it easier to see in others.
That's beautiful. And because, it's interesting. I think society, we have enough people bringing us down on a daily basis. We have people doubting us. We have people telling us we can't do this, or we're not, educated enough, or we're not this, we're not that. And it's like not enough focus is on what we are It's
Yep.
always what we are not. And
Yep.
so if we start with that, I feel like there's a part of me, quite frankly, just being totally transparent, that I feel like if I were to go through that exercise, what I'm going to be fighting is the voice in my head that tells me, yeah, you're all these things, but, and then I go down that negative path.
Yep.
And I think
Yeah.
it's got to start though there, because I don't do enough time in that mindset of like what I am. And I'm sure that could probably resonate with a lot of people, a lot of our listeners too.
Yes. So 2 things here. This gratitude list allows you then to identify ways in which you can pivot.
Right.
Oftentimes people get stuck in the mindset that they are one faceted, that they're one dimensional beings, but we're actually very multidimensional. And when you list out these gifts, skill sets, and talents, you realize how much you have to offer and how you can combine these gifts, skill sets, and talents in a unique way, because no one else can share what you can share in the way that only you can share it. So when you realize that, it allows you to really assess ways in which you can offer and package your offering to serve a new community or even your current community, but in a different way. And then secondly, what you hone in on about this mind that's like constantly judging and constantly talking yourself out of alignment, and it thinks it's so smart, but but your soul is the one who truly knows. And so, side note, that's the power of spoken word. It speaks to your soul. It bypasses a mind that's constantly judging and speaks directly to the soul. And that's why people feel it so deeply. And with that in mind, like affirmations are so very important to trump this negative mindset and pull yourself out of that, what I call the negativity thought tunnel. And so that's actually something I'm working on right now, my personal affirmation creation tool.
I was going to ask about this.
Yes.
Perfect segue.
Yes. So I don't know if you noticed, but I love acronyms. So you already know GOLD, or Genuine, Original, Loving, Dreamer. And the new one I'm going to share with you now is PACT, Personal Affirmation Creation Tool. And this tool is essentially your ultimate pact with your inner self. Many people create these generic, or they find these generic affirmations on the internet. And yeah, they could be of help. They could be of some support. They could help you in a certain way, very limited, because it doesn't align with your actual gifts, skill sets, and your talents. It doesn't align with your core being, your values, as well as your dreams, your visions for yourself. It doesn't align. But if you take the time to create affirmations that are truly in alignment with your values and your future goals, then there is more power in that. And this isn't just me saying this. There's been multiple studies that have been done to show that this is fact, essentially. And so this tool that I've created is based off multiple studies, and it walks you through the steps on how to create personal affirmations that align with your core values and your future goals, so that when those limiting beliefs come up, you have affirmations in your empowerment tool chest that you can pull out and elevate your confidence to move forward.
I love that.
I can't wait for that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that so much. So I want to be sure that we talk about your podcast, because you are also a podcaster. So what is the name of it, and what are you sharing on your podcast?
Yes. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk about the podcast on your podcast. My podcast is Golden Meta Sessions with DocPeace. And on the podcast, we feature NFT creatives who show what they're working on, how they're creatively expressing, so that you can find and achieve your own version of success in Web3. And again, it's your own, not somebody else's. I think oftentimes we look at someone that we admire and we are so focused on duplicating what it is that they're doing. But that's not the case that I want to really hone in on. I want to hone in on really understanding what your own innate gifts, expert skills, and talents are, and utilizing this podcast, this platform, and even beyond the podcasting platform, utilizing the inspiration that you get from others to help really dig deep as to what it is you as an individual with your own unique set of gifts, expert skills, and talents can really offer. And so the podcast features all of these NFT creatives, from musicians, fashion designers, those who are building in the metaverse. We've had on David Bianchi. We've had on Fame Lady Squad, Cara Ricketts from Fame Lady Squad. We've had on some incredible beings who are building some incredible things in the space. And again, the focus is so that you can find and achieve your own version of success in the Web3 space. And what's funny about this podcast name is that it's called GM with DocPeace. And I didn't realize it till actually quite recently that the acronym is GM, Golden Meta Sessions.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's
It's perfect. Perfect.
It's so perfect. I love that.
I
love that. I just have to say, your lighting right now,
right?
like when you just went into the light, it's like you're just like glowing the gold. So it's
on brand. It's totally on brand.
It really is.
Thank you. I have to say though that I am melting.
Oh, I bet.
The sun's coming straight in.
We can't tell
natural light.
See that,
yeah.
So you're good.
Yeah, you look fabulous from our side.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. One thing that I would like to add on, if you are looking to pivot into the Web3 space, I do offer a one-on-one coaching support for my clients who are interested in dialing in their gifts, their expert skills and talents, and creating an offer, a program, a service that serves the NFT community. So really dialing in how your unique set of gifts, expert skills, and talents could serve the need and really fill a gap that's not currently completed because we haven't found anyone with your unique set of gifts, skill sets, and talents quite yet. And so to give an example, exactly, we're non-fungible. So to give you an example of someone who's been able to go through this program and find a lot of success with it, her name is Alexandra, and she is a surgical nurse by trade and a certified nutritionist. And at the time that we started working together, there was no other nutritionist in the Web3 space who was really getting it going and who had that community built around that nutrition and wellness support. So she was able to establish herself as the NFT nutritionist. In fact, that's her handle. So you can go and follow her, the NFT nutritionist, not the, but NFT nutritionist. And she supports the NFT community specifically with dialing in their nutrition and wellness. So that's a great example of how you can leverage your skill sets to support a growing community. And I'm talking about any type of service, really, from accounting to legal services to health, wellness, all of that is something that could be packaged into an offering or to a program or into a tool that serves our growing community.
I am
following it's so true. It's so true. I feel like there is like sky's the limit.
Her. Yes,
sky's the limit with what you can do with NFTs and different industries. It's just crazy. Some of the things that you see out there.
Yes, most definitely. And for many people who this is very relatively new, this is a whole another ball game, a whole new community. It could be very daunting. And so one of the things that we do is we take the time to build community, to do that market research so that you can really dial in on what it is that the community is welcoming and really identify how your unique skill sets, your gifts, your talents can support them in that unique way. And the program is called Pivot to NFTs. And if you're interested in or curious as to what this particular program entails, check it out and let me know, because you'll be surprised what you find in terms of how you can show up and provide value to the Web3 space, whether it's something that you're creating or a business or a brand or a product that you're creating, or how you can collaborate with other existing businesses and brands based off your unique skill set.
I love that. I love
And
that
you
so
can
much.
find all that information at MetaDocPeace.com.
Yes, MetaDocPeace.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It has been our pleasure chatting with you.
Yes, it's been so wonderful connecting. Thank you so very much for having me. I love the heart.
We absolutely love you. We'll be following you. How do people follow you? So obviously your website, do you have a Twitter handle?
Yes, so my Twitter handle is MetaDocPeace. Everything Instagram, MetaDocPeace. I'm on TikTok and Twitter at either MetaDocPeace or DocPeace. But if you go to MetaDocPeace.com, you'll find everything all about what I'm doing, how you can get involved, how we can connect. I have a Discord community that I go live every Wednesday at noon. We have trainings, Web3 trainings. Today we had DeFi for beginners. We had an expert come in and show us how to invest our crypto and how to stake our crypto, especially now that we're in the bear market and the market's not down. We might as well let our money make money for us. And so we have these types of discussions and we bring in these experts and I myself go live to share with you some insights that I've learned along my journey and ways that we can really get it going. And so I would love to connect with you all further. And one last acronym for everyone is LFG. Let's flow gold. Let's flow gold.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Awesome.
I actually have a new flow, spoken word flow called Let's Flow Gold. So I'm really excited to debut that.
Can't wait to hear that one.
I'm so excited to share it. In fact, about a month or so ago, I connected with Gary V again in LA, and we were able to drop in for a quick little interview with him. And afterwards, he really surprised me. He asked me how my speaking was going. And it's really interesting to know how he follows up and how he pays attention to those within his community. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us to really try to make an effort to do that. So he asked me how my speaking was going, and I was able to share with him that I have a spoken word flow. And he was like, I'm excited to hear it. And I'm like, I'm excited to flow. So let's flow gold.
I love
so
that.
Good.
So that was so cool, Jen FT. I think is just so amazing. And I loved meeting her in New York. That, like I talked about in the show, the moment of that light bulb going off for me. And then just being able to reconnect with her here was super cool.
Yeah, I love her vibe. I love all that she has going on. I think she's just someone that has really tuned into so much of what we probably all feel, but we've never really actually been able to articulate. And the way that she flows and it's just so good. I absolutely adore her.
I also think if there were nominations for any sort of NFT awards, I think she would win for best dressed. Every 100%. Time I see her, she's always on point with whatever she's wearing.
So. She is my goals, my attire and overall vibe goals. I mean, she's just so great.
Yeah, I agreed. So I just want to say to everyone, as always, thank you for listening to the Nifty Chicks. If you are watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, we would love it if you would click that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get notified whenever we have a new episode out for you all to listen to.
That's right. And always remember, invest in yourself. You are worth it. Please listen carefully to the following disclaimer. Neither the host nor the guests of the Nifty Chicks podcast are acting in the capacity of financial advisors. We wish to remain transparent and impartial to the NFT community at all times, and therefore, the content provided by the Nifty Chicks hosts and guests are intended for general information purposes only. Nothing written or discussed by the Nifty Chicks hosts and guests should be construed or relied upon as investment, financial, legal, regulatory, accounting, tax, or similar advice. Nothing should be interpreted as a solicitation to invest in any cryptocurrency or NFT, and nothing herein should be construed as a recommendation to engage in any investment strategy or transaction. Please be advised that it is in your own best interest to consult with investment, legal, tax, or similar professionals regarding any specific situation and any prospective transaction decisions. You must do your own research when considering investing in cryptocurrencies or NFTs. We are simply sharing our journey with you as we learn more about the world of NFTs. Happy minting.